Well, netball's a confusing game, isn't it? We don't know what a replay is anymore. No one knows what a short pass is anymore. But what we do know is that you are here for a short chat, a longish chat, a medium chat with No Dribble. You're on No Dribble. Strap in! Welcome to Friday. Welcome to No Dribble, the podcast where we talk about netball. We talk about so much more. My name's Carolyn Swindell.
I'm Liz Ellis. I'm Sue Gaudion.
Yeah, I am. Susan Gaudion, AM. Yes, please remember you're required to use those letters as often as you can. Liz, why are you here?
Why am I here?
Yeah. I mean, I know why you're here in the podcast, but why do I get to have you here? Why isn't Catherine here for starters? She's at a junior netball comp for the day. So,
I knew we were missing someone.
Yeah, that's all right.
Thank you for mentioning that.
Catherine's off at the rodeo again.
So I'm here because I have been doing some work for the Asthma Foundation. And interestingly, we're launching a campaign which is called She Needs to Breathe. And it basically is about getting GPs to talk to women at different stages of their lives about asthma. And what I have learned through this campaign, when they came to me and said, would you like to do this campaign? Obviously, because I have the asthma. And yeah.
You seem so hale and hearty.
Oh, look, I am, but I've had the asthma since I was a kid.
Wow.
But what I learned through when I first spoke to the people, the guys at the Asthma Foundation, was that that women are affected by asthma far more than men. So it affects young boys more than young girls, but once puberty hits, that switches. So twice as many women die from asthma than men, right? I didn't know this was a women's health problem. I just thought it was, a luck problem, but it's a women's health problem. So there's a campaign now to get GPs to speak to women at all different phases of their lives because your asthma changes with hormones. So puberty, pregnancy, perimenopause, menopause, and then in older age. As your hormones change, your asthma changes.
Wow.
So I was down here doing some things with just a launch and some media, and I thought, if that means that I can come in and hang out with my mate Caroline,
and that's very exciting.
Keep Roxy out. Well, that's not a bad result.
Out of curiosity, have you had asthma all your life?
All my life, I can't remember a time where I didn't wheeze.
Right. Okay. And so then, did you notice changes at those points?
Yeah,
in
key
your life?
points. Yeah. So when I was little, my asthma presented as a wheeze, where now it presents as really heaviness in my chest. So, and one of the interesting things was when I was little, I got diagnosed, but I was a kid, so I didn't know you're a kid, you got no idea what the doctor's saying to your parents. And I got diagnosed with severe asthma, but mum and dad decided to not tell me I had severe asthma. They used to tell me I was a mild asthmatic. And they did that so that I didn't think that I couldn't do stuff. So they didn't want me to be defined by being asthmatic.
That's so cool.
It's interesting, isn't it? But I got selected in my first Diamonds team and we went and did all the screening. And do you remember Grace Bright? She was the Diamonds Dr. Grace. She's like an institution in Australian sports medicine. And she did all the tests and she said, oh, okay, so you've filled in the forms for mild asthma. She goes, and she sent me off to do some testing to get a baseline. And she said to me, you're not a mild asthmatic. And I was like, yeah, I am. I've always had asthma. She goes, yeah, you're a severe asthmatic. So we need to treat you accordingly. So I rang mum and said, did you know that I was a severe asthmatic? She goes, yeah. I said, well, why didn't you tell me? She's like, we just didn't want to make a big deal out of it. Your father and I thought you'd be much better if you just thought you were mild. So it was amazing. Like, I don't know that you want to, pro tip, you might not want to do that with your kids, downplay their medical issues so that they don't think about them too much, because then we had to go and get like a management plan, and Grace was fantastic. But I really appreciate the fact that mum and dad just never let me think that I could
define yourself.
Define myself or not do something because of, of being asthmatic. So, but now and since I went through fertility treatment and I wrote my book, I'm really about fertility, and whether it's fertility or anything else or asthma, I'm really passionate about the fact that women have to be their own best advocate in the healthcare setting. And we're seeing that now, like the Sydney Morning Herald have run an excellent series about medical misogyny. And I think, in the past, it's always been the doctor knows best. That doesn't mean you go in and you get Dr. Google or you learn harangue your doctor. You actually should ask questions. You should push for a different opinion if you feel like you're not getting treated seriously with your symptoms. And a lot of women don't when it comes to asthma. So, or there's a lot going on and they don't mention it to their doctor. So this whole campaign is about getting GPs to proactively speak to women. But it's also about getting women to be proactive about going to speak to their doctor. So when you're at your doctor, if you feel anything's changed, go and have that conversation, because you might need a renewal of your asthma management plan. And it's not just asthma, it's everything else. I'm so determined to harp on it for as long as I can that nobody knows your health story like you do, and nobody can advocate on behalf of you like you do, right? So take control. Don't be afraid to ask the questions. So thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
I proactively went to the doctor because I thought I had asthma and he just told me I was unfit. I was struggling to breathe a little bit at one point in my time.
It's so interesting, this stuff, this medical misogyny stuff, as you say. But it's like, until 1993, they weren't required to study women's health in med school. So that means that the people I went through, my contemporaries at university, were not studying women's health. Like, this is something you sort of think, oh yeah, all the old men doctors, they wouldn't know that. But it's like 1993 is not that long ago. But even with all of the information at our disposal and the like, I had a rough run with plantar fasciitis up until about 12 months ago. That's related to menopause and perimenopause. And it's like, who the fuck knew? Sore feet is from, and it's like, unless we're talking about these things that, we just go, well, there's no way I would talk to my doctor about that, because I would just go, well, it's just muscle soreness in my feet. It's very painful and unpleasant muscle soreness in my feet. But, you roll them out, do all these other exercises. But, it's seeing podiatrists and the like. And it wasn't until I went to a podiatrist in Balmain who has actually worked with both the Swiss and the and the Giants, and just in passing she said, well, yeah, it's not an uncommon thing for perimenopausal and menopausal women to get plantar fasciitis. It's like, well, you would not think that what's going on with your hormones is actually going to be impacting the soles of your feet. And it's incredible, all the different things that it does impact. And how are we meant to know that if our doctors don't know that? So it is very much about advocating for yourself and I guess even being aware when you're at the GP of what are the things that are going on in my body, because I'll often go, I'm here for a new script and how's this going, how's that going? And unless I've spent some time thinking about it before I go into the GP to say, oh, well, here's some things. Is there anything interesting in that? Well, he can't work with what I give him. So
yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? And if you think about, we're a netball podcast, so you go back to netball and to sport, even research. So in the past, there was no requirement that research had to be done on men and women. It was just mainly done on men, and then women were treated as small men. Yeah. And so things like ACL injuries, there's a link to your hormones and to the time of your cycle. And so you would see this with your work directly with athletes. So absolutely, research needs to be done on women, because your menstrual cycle has a massive impact on your physiology.
Yeah, World Netball, I just got an email just recently. World Netball, there is a study currently going on around connection to ACL and menstrual cycles. So they're asking for elite athletes and coaches and medical staff, etc., to engage in that research so that we can understand. They know that there's a link, but they want to get a better understanding of that link, and then like the preventative measures, right? Because, obviously as a women's dominated sport, it's a fairly important piece of our puzzle to try and eradicate if we can from the game, because ACLs take people's seasons away. Sunday Arang's just a great example of that horrific scene at the end of the internationals, and then not playing this year and missing a Commonwealth Games. So that's the last thing we want for any athlete in the sport.
And it happens, when at the time girls are hitting puberty too, there's a lot more of sports-related injuries for exactly the same reason. They've got all of these hormones going through their system. And, And that's a time when girls are going to drop out, most likely to drop out of sport too. So it's really critical that we get a better understanding of all of these things and the impact that it has. And because, you play sport, I reckon you're going to have a happier life. That's
Yes. Gaudy, with athlete management systems, I've been out of the game for a long time now, so in terms of being a player, so I'm interested in what happens. There's athlete management systems and the athletes record how they're feeling. And do you tailor training or rest periods or recovery around menstrual cycles? Are we that sort of in tune with that sort of stuff yet?
That's very player individual, because as we all know, menstrual cycles vary in terms of intensity and et cetera. Everyone has different scenarios, and some players are on, medications or whatnot that they don't get their cycle during the season. Some choose to do that, some don't. But it's monitored. It's more the other aspects around it that can become with fatigue. So some players will cite fatigue around that period of time, lack of sleep. That can often be part and parcel around a menstrual cycle. So those things are noted, but specifically tailoring training around a menstrual cycle, it would be more the information you take to that into the bigger picture and the load management of that athlete at that point in time. But again, as I said to you, I think the research that is inevitably going to be done will play a big piece moving forward in us understanding better. And actually, I think, Liz, understanding earlier, like Carolyn, you just mentioned, at a younger age, understanding the impacts on athletes earlier, so that when they're getting into pathway systems and then at that elite level, we're better. They're better and we're better for it, not just sort of dealing with the elite product. I think it's through the system. So I'm excited to see what comes from that.
Cool. Good chat. But yeah, make sure if you have asthma, talk to your GP about how to change your treatment plan.
Yeah, just monitoring your treatment plan.
I feel like before we have a break and come back and talk about netball, we've given Margaret Ellis's parenting a bit of a hammering in the last couple of weeks. But I would like to say, have you ever heard an interview with Kurt Fearnley? Just legendary Paralympian Kurt Fearnley grew up in Cowra, one of a number of kids in his family. And, it's just great to hear the way he was brought up, and he clearly didn't have the lower body mobility or development that his siblings did, and they just went, keep up, It's like, and then the town got together and raised money to get him a racing wheelchair. But again, his parents didn't let him define himself by what was a significant disability, and talked about, well, this is something you have to deal with, mate. Get after it. And, what an extraordinary athlete came out of that self-belief.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good work, Margaret.
I was just thinking about this actually only this week, that this word resilience, right? Like, I feel like our generation, we were built on, our generation, nothing compared to the generation before ours, resilient. Like, I just feel like this word resilience is slowly dwindling. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but I just hope that the current generation can continue to build resilience. I think it's really important. It's such it's such a powerful word, and it can be used so often. And like you hear, your mum, Liz, I mean, like, she really just built resilience in you, didn't she, as well, right? Like, get out, keep at it.
100%, get out. Don't want to hear your excuses, whatever.
Yeah.
I can't breathe.
Should pay attention to that one.
But you know what? Actually, it does come into my parenting, because when my kids were little, this is going to sound really mean, I would do things to make them be resilient. So I would just walk in and say, television goes off in 3, 2, 1, and they'd lose it. But then 5 minutes later, they were fine. I was like, see, you can get over it. And I still do things to them now. I mean, it's not mean, it's not illegal, but I do things to make them be resilient. I don't know. They'll probably be telling. But then when they whinge, I'm like, hey, you're going to have something to tell your therapist.
So my hot parenting tip for people with young children is they try to go to sleep in the car. When about 18 months, 2 years old, they go to sleep 2 minutes before you get home for nap time. And then they go, no, I'm fine, I've just had a sleep. Look, this isn't going to be in any books you read, but this is why you listen to this podcast, for the parenting tips that you can't get in official channels. We kept a little water pistol in the car.
Love it.
Oh, I love that. I used to wind the window down. I wish I had thought of a waterpiece. Can you imagine driving past the cop and you've got one hand on the wheels, the other hand?
Oh, it's a little tiny whale-shaped one that they used in the bar.
Yes,
Look,
yes.
I don't know that it was my finest moment as a parent, but, whatever gets you through the day, right?
Exactly right.
Yes. All right, we're going to take a little break and we can come back and talk about some netball. Netball, netball, netball. There's not a lot left of this season. There are 2 games left in the Super Netball season, so we've got to suck the life out of this. But then we've also got, I would like us to talk about the signings period, which I know is probably it is a nightmare for you, Sue. It's probably a nightmare for you, Liz, because you've got a whole lot of other stuff that has. But for someone like me, I'm just going to sit back and crack open a wine and look at social media. I can't wait for the MAB social media team this year for the announcements. So T-Birds were great with their announcements this year and the like. So, but first of all, let's talk about, actually one thing I want to talk about is the Heffernans. So Georgia Heffernan on the weekend played in a preliminary final for Southern Steel versus Tactics. At the same time, her twin sister Kate was playing for the Thunderbirds in the, what the hell do we call the semi-final? Daryl says you're right. Yes, and they've gone on for the Southern Steel beat Tactics 60-54. So here's to Mr. and Mrs. Heffernan, who, I don't know, how do you decide what to watch on delay and what I would have watched Kate on delay, working on the assumption that she's probably going to be going through to the grand final. But yeah, so Georgia's got a game this week. Kate has a game next week. Twins, like Georgia and Kate Heffernan, the Kransberg twins. Like, it's insane, isn't it?
They've got Birdo. I mean, the beauty for the Kransbergs, the parents, they're in the same team, and it was same for Von Berto's in their time as well, in the same team. But for the Heffernans, they're not just only in different teams, they're in different countries, right?
Different countries, different time zones.
Different time, a little bit different time zone. But by all accounts, both sisters, well, we know Kate Heffernan's having a blinder, but I think her sister's having a ripper season as well, which was great, and being named in the Silver Ferns to play in Com Games. So, like irrespective of how that all works out, 2 players in form for the Silver Ferns leading into Com Games. It's pretty exciting.
A lot of players in form for the Silver Ferns leading into the Com Games, I think.
Yeah. And Nolan Tarawa, how's that, I mean, just quickly, we digress, but it's netball digress, so we're allowed to digress. Nolan Tarawa coming out this week. We're going for gold. The statement has been made. The Silver Ferns are going for gold. Now, I know that sounds stupid because you don't go to the Commonwealth Games and don't go for gold, but you wait for it to be said by Dame Nolene Tarawa. That means business. And you think about the turmoil that's happened with the Silver Ferns and, of course, the stepping and all of that, and now apparently all back on track within reason, side selected, and Nolene now out, and the voice piece is we're going for it. Well, wouldn't you say that when you're having a look at the form of some of your players in the league over here? Kelly Jackson,
I absolutely would.
took every award at the Firebirds dinner. You see that? She took every award at the Firebirds dinner. Every award.
Wow.
Kelly Jackson.
Coaching?
No one else.
Managing?
Natty Gordon, I thought, played some really good netball in the back end of the season when she'd sort of got her injury right. Heffernan just insane.
Yeah, I reckon Kate Heffernan's a pick. She's been amazing.
Yeah.
Karen Berger also had a blinder of a season.
Yeah,
I think who Kiwi netball fans really need to thank, and that is Grace Wecky, because Grace had the courage to step out of what was then the rule about Silver Ferns eligibility, and she went, no, I want to go and play with the Swifts for a while. That put pressure on New Zealand netball to change that rule, which then meant we had all of these amazing Kiwi players coming over here this year, which has been great for our season, but has been sensational for the Silver Ferns leading into Com Games, because they have all had this season now playing in the best comp in the world leading it. So, I wouldn't be at all surprised. I'd be pissed, but I wouldn't be at all surprised if they did get the gold medal this time. Like, they're looking good.
Yeah, and I think what's been interesting and I think Coxie said it a few weeks ago on the dribble around, like she probably spoke up a little bit earlier in the season to say they hadn't really, a lot of the Ferns imports hadn't really lit the season on fire. They were a bit, but it just took them a little while to understand, as it does with a lot of imports in this league. When you step in to the world's best netball league, it takes a bit of time to find the tempo, the rhythm, the style of game, your new club, etc. But those Silver Ferns players have all found form at the right end of the season. And like if you were the Silver Ferns coach, Arnie Knowles, you'd be rubbing your hands together. So that statement, I think there's a lot of weight and power behind that statement. And also too, within reason, when you look at the two, what do you call them, pools for Commonwealth Games, Aussies have got the tough pool. They've got England and they've got South Africa. New Zealand have Jamaica. Now, Jamaica are no throwaway, but they don't have Fowler, Nemard, Aiken, George, Nelson. Whilst the team hasn't been announced yet, there's an insider for you. But do you know what I mean? Like that, they're not going to have, well, I'm assuming they don't, but they're not going to have the power at the front that they usually have. They'll certainly have the back, but not the power at the front. So, like, Ferns probably have an easier run to the goalpost than the others. I don't know. Interesting.
It's exciting. I'll just remind everyone I have 2 passports, so, I can jump on whatever bandwagon I want. Not
It'll be Australian.
Not happy, Jan? Oh, I'm Australian. I didn't get up to watch the Socceroos on Saturday morning, though. I did wake up at 6 and look at my phone and go, they're 2-0 down. I'll probably just watch it from bed. I didn't get up.
I got up and I said to my husband as I got out of bed, I must really love our son.
Oh, did you get up? Did Austin get up?
Oh, Austin is obsessed with soccer. Obsessed.
That's so good.
Yeah, and I thought, he was like, Mummy, can you get up? And I thought, there will come a time.
Yeah.
Next World Cup will be 14. He'll be like, Mum, please don't come anywhere near me. So I thought, right. And it's an excuse to lie in the beanbag and cuddle him.
Oh, I saw something incredible this morning and I took a screenshot of it because I wanted to share it. So there is a woman where's she from? She's from Ecuador. In 1998, a woman in Ecuador entered a Coca-Cola raffle thinking she'd won a trip to the World Cup. She'd actually won a trip to every World Cup for the rest of her life.
Wow.
Maria Jesus Pinagote, I very much apologise for the pronunciation there, has now attended 8 consecutive tournaments. France 98, Korea, Japan 2002, Germany 2006, South Africa 2010, Brazil 2014, Russia 18, Qatar 22, and now US in 2026, all from a raffle she entered 28 years ago. How sensational.
Oh,
and like
wow.
young men she was watching play at the first one are now like coaches. What are they called? The team managers. I don't understand. So
Gaffer.
lingo.
The gaffer.
The gaffer.
Gordy, what were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say, like, Federation Square in Melbourne. So I was in Melbourne the previous week, obviously, for the Fever Vixens round 14 game. And that was the first Aussie game where we won. Can't remember who we played. And Federation Square was set up, and the amount of people that came to Fed Square to watch the game was incredible. I was like, oh, that's terrific. But then I was really disappointed. And this is what I just hope Australia doesn't get to this point, right? So I watched then some footage of game 2, which was the 3 a.m. or would depend, 5 a.m. if you're on the East Coast game. And again, Federation Square was pulsating, like insane, to the point that so many people had turned up, they couldn't get them into Fed Square. And then the madness started. And people were pushing and barriers started to fall down and people were jumping. And I just go like, there's just that for me, like as a mad sports fan, I go, but there's just no space for that sort of behaviour. And I just, I know the world game and I love the passion and I love how it, again, I watch things like this and I go, sport is one of the most incredible vehicles for human togetherness, right?
Yeah.
And
connection,
but it can also, on a dime, turn very quickly. You look at the NBA finals over in New York and the Knicks fans decided they want to bloody rip up the city after the Knicks win a game. I mean, what sort of behaviour is that? It's just stupid. So I love it on one hand, but like, can I just say to all of those young men out there that listen to the No Dribble podcast because they'd be very good.
I think in the Venn diagram of like people ripping up the city and listening to the No Dribble, I don't know that there is an overlap.
But Auntie Susan has some advice for you.
Auntie Susan,
Auntie Susan has some advice, and that is to all the Dribble parents out there that have sons that turn up to Federation Square or anywhere else, please tell them to behave. Like, God, I know I sound old, but like honestly, watching footage like that, I go from one moment where I'm watching the footage and it just is so patriotic, and the way they sung the national anthem, I was like, honestly, just unreal. And you know, I'm the big passion. I love that sort of stuff. But in a dime, I'm then just so disappointed with such pathetic, stupid, immature behaviour that's unnecessary. And they all just think they're bloody heroes. They're dickheads. They go from heroes to dickheads. Sorry, that's
heroes to zero.
Can we have a new segment called Auntie Sue's Counted Wolf Arms?
Yeah, I love that.
On somebody every week.
Get your shit together by Sue Gaudion. Yeah.
No, it's
Can
true,
I?
You know what I mean?
Are you avoiding talking about this weekend's game, though? Is that what's going on here in talking about all of these young men?
Yeah, as we speak, I'm on an aeroplane, guys, as we speak.
It's an amazing world. This is a live podcast, and Sue, it's Friday. She's on a plane. So, Vixens Fever. I reckon Fever have got this one. As I said, you know, underestimate the Vixens at your peril. But when I look at the path that they have both had to get here, I think that Fever have been building. And I think that now I do have to make an apology. I did say that I did say in last week's episode that Vixens hadn't had a win since about round 9. But this is their run. In round 7, they beat Fever by 6. In round 8, they had a win, but it was the Giants by 2. Round 9, they had a win. It was the Firebirds by 23. So again, 2 teams at the bottom of the ladder. Round 10, they lost to Lightning. Round 11, they beat the Swifts by 10. But all 4 of those games were teams sitting who did not make the finals. Then they've had round 12, they lost to Thunderbirds by 19. Round 13, they lost to Mavs by 9. Round 14, they lost to Fever by 9. And then, of course, last week in the final, they lost that by 14. Contrast that to Fever. They have had, round 12, they lost to Mavericks by 3. But round 13, they beat the Giants. Round 14, they beat the Vixens in Melbourne. And in the semi-final, they beat the Mavs by 4. So I feel like it will be Fever going to the finals. Elizabeth, would you? Would you? Yeah. Or anyone care to comment on my well-argued, backed up by facts and stats, channeling Daryl Milton point?
I think the preliminary fund is always tough because you've got a team that's come off a loss and they're disappointed, and a team that's come off a win. And in this case, if the team that's come off a win is building, the team that's come off a loss is sort of, their results don't suggest that they're travelling particularly well. I think the home crowd will come into it for Vixens. And I think we're going to get a really desperate match. I think both teams will play really desperate netball because I know they'll have to. And Thunderbirds will be really happy watching both teams be really desperate. I don't know. I just think you go into this and the form suggests Fever for the win. The class and the talent in the Vixens team, you think, well, I know. All right, yeah. I know. I've probably just sat there. You go. I'm sitting on the fence. I have freckles. I have splinters in my freckle.
Though, like this for me, and I've thought this for a while, this is probably one of the greatest rivalries that's been developed in our sport. So when you look at stats, like these are the 2 most successful clubs in the history of Suncorp Super Netball in terms of finals appearances. So they're both played in 8 finals appearances in the 10 years of the competition.
And Fever 7 in a row or something?
So 7 in a row for Fever. 8 in total for Fever and 8 in total for the Vixens, but not 7 in a row. And then you think about it and you go, like, in terms of grand finals, and whilst this is only a preliminary final, but you're talking about the history of these 2 clubs, they've played, I think, off in 3 grand finals against each other, which is more than any other clubs had played against each other. And yeah, there's some real sort of background and some, it goes right back to the COVID days, and it started really the rivalry off the back of that game that got cancelled when the Vixens crossed the border and they didn't come to Perth, and then the West Coast Fever cracked the shits
refresh
off.
my memory on that.
Oh God! So there was we're in COVID.
It was during the COVID hub, was it?
Yeah.
Lockdown.
Yeah, Vixens were due to come to Perth. 3 of their players crossed the border into Byron Bay, and then the borders closed, and so they then
Crossed the Queensland-New South Wales border.
Yeah, and then the border closed, and if you had been in that region in the period of time, you were in lockdown. And so 3 of the Vixens players were automatically put into lockdown. And so the fight became, should you play on or shouldn't you? And so if you're West Coast Fever and you've sold a stadium, you expect your opposition to turn up irrespective of circumstance. And if you're Fever, and if you're Vixens, you want to make sure that you're playing with the best possible team you can. Anyhow, I wore a hat that was called a general manager at that time, and I became a very, very angry, abrupt person during that period. However, it is where the rivalry, I think, it started, because the game was cancelled. Fever then had to fly into Hub and then had to play a game. So we were playing 1 game a week, but Fever had to find a second game, or we're playing 2 games a week or something, and Fever and Vixens had to find an extra game in a week to play, which was, I felt, a disadvantage to the West Coast Fever, given a couple of players crossed the border. Anyhow, depends which side of the fence you sit on. But that's where the rivalry started, I think, between the 2 clubs. And since then, you've just had 2 clubs that, are season contenders year in, year out, just about. And when they come up against each other, I think you're right, Liz, that it's going to be a bloody bloodbath battle.
It's exciting.
So, Sue, Fever will fly across to Melbourne for the preliminary. If you win, you'll fly back to Perth and come back across. Was there any, was there any thought of staying? What do you weigh up when you make that decision?
That's a really good question.
Take money out of it, because obviously there's a cost to having players.
Yeah.
But even if, is there an advantage? Would you stay? Is there an advantage to get players home into their homes, into their normal routine? What do you weigh up?
So the tough one with this for the West Coast Fever is the game being on a Saturday night doesn't allow us to get out on the same day. So we fly today, and whenever this
Friday,
time is, we fly today and then play tomorrow night and then fly home Sunday morning, and we would return home, I think, just with the sense that people just want to be in their own beds. And, at the end of the day, flying's flying. When you're flying after a win, you're playing in a grand final, 4 hours, 5 hours on flights, nothing, right? You don't worry about it. But the difference also now is the league have an expectation of clubs to arrive earlier. And at this point in time, I actually can't remember exactly whether that's Wednesday or Thursday, but because now part of the grand final package is that you can purchase the rights to go to captains runs, and then there's sort of all these other bits and pieces. The captains have photo shoots, etc. So historically, you would try and come in as late as possible, particularly if you were from Perth, because you're trying to save your time. But that's no longer the case. So it's a bit of a tough one. But at this stage, the intent would be we're returning home and then come back if we're fortunate.
And what's the access to training facilities then for you if you're away? So clearly, Vixens will be at home, and they'll have. Oh no, I'm wrong, because I'm thinking about a grand final. If you're back there, if you're back early for that, so both teams are at the same disadvantage.
No, it's actually a really good. It's actually a really good question. And again, GM had on when I was there. It was one that I fought, because each team, and this is not just a Fever centric thing, but teams train it. You have your regular or your standard training week, and using West Coast Fever as a case example, we would train on a Thursday evening. Right. And we're also 2 hours or 3 hours behind, depending on which time of the season. But coming to finals, we're 2 hours behind. And so whereas other teams might train on a Thursday morning, and then if you're expected to fly for Fever, we need to fly earlier again Other teams might be able to fly in on the day so you can get your training in on the Thursday morning. Now, that might seem really simple. That's all right. Fever, just jump on a plane, go to Melbourne and train there. But you see, it's about what's in your training environment. And so for West Coast Fever, by way of example, we fundamentally rely heavily on our training partners and our men's players who come into the environment, and our greatest access to them is after business hours on a Thursday. And it's a big product of the Fever training environment. And so then if we have to go early, we actually lose that on our most critical training session. So it's a bit of a battle with the league on it. But, you know, at the end of the day, we're also an entertainment product, and, you know, you've got to tick boxes. And so you manage and you find ways. So historically, we've flown in our men's training partners, which has been great. But, you know, that costs a lot of money. And I don't know where the club will be at this time if we're fortunate enough to get ourselves to a grand final.
Hypothetically, if it was a Thunderbirds Fever grand final in Melbourne, could you use us, the Victorian men's team, to come and be training partners for you?
But you know, like, well, you could, but it's not the same. Like, you know, your training partners play a role, and they understand the environment, and they know. Yeah, you could, and historically, to be honest with you, we actually have done that. We did that during COVID because we couldn't get anybody. So we did have, and they were brilliant. And again, probably a shout out to the men's game and the boys who continually put their hand up and come into all of the club's training environments and play formidable roles as opposition and motivators and all that they do in the environments. And so, yeah, historically, we have done that, and the boys have put their hand up and they've come in and whatnot. But I don't know that works as well outside of a COVID environment. Ideally, you want your training environment. So that becomes a financial decision for clubs to make depending on what's important.
And do you source the bees locally, or will you bring the bees, put unquote, over from Western Australia?
No. So because we will be getting a chartered flight over, we will. No, that's correct. So.
The Fever apiarist.
I don't know. I was just worried about all the biosecurity laws being broken there.
Yes.
So maybe we don't. Don't make jokes about
way.
security.
No, we'll be picking up bees in Melbourne. Don't worry about that.
One thing I did have to ask, this is the world's longest netball segment, but I did say we would talk about the signings free-for-all. So just briefly, do you have any sense yet, Sue, as to what sort of, when that window will be, or...
So the intention, as it always has been, would be that the window would open after the grand final. But at the moment, there is still some toing and throwing about whether that timeline will be met. I think everyone's trying to work towards it, but a few things have to fall into place, I guess, for that to be achieved. We'll stay optimistic and hope that that's the case, because one of the difficulties. And again, you know, aligning, coming off contract and going into a major tournament like the Commonwealth Games, you know, one of the difficulties is that the longer that gets delayed, it kind of overlaps with some key events. But that's why players have managers, and hopefully managers can service roles that they're supposed to, irrespective of what else is going on in the world. So at this point in time, clubs are prepping as per the dates, but also prepping for the fact that there might be some delay while, negotiations continue to try and get to a point.
God, what a nightmare. Okay, thank you. Well, I think we'll have a quick break and we'll come back for our final segment. Okay, I have the things that make you go, It's a brief one, but I think it's appropriate given the what we've talked about, where I'm actually looking forward to Auntie Susan's views on this one. So on the weekend, I watched the Super Rugby final, and that was played in New Zealand between two New Zealand teams. None of the Australian teams qualified for it. But in the opening package beforehand, this made me go, They went through all of the years of Super Rugby and all of the teams that had played it, except if an Australian team had won in that year, then they just pretended that year didn't exist. They only put up. So this is the Sky Sports package, opening package, so the equivalent of Fox doing something for netball and just going, well, let's just pretend that never happened because I don't like XYZ team. So they just completely erased Australia from, and like, to be fair, there's only about in that, 15 or 20 year period or whatever. There's not many, no, but it's like, well, I worked for the Brumbies for several years, and when they won the Super Rugby finals, like, no mention of it, no mention of when the Waratahs won it. No, it's just,
I love it.
did not exist. Made me go,
Do you know, as you know, part of the way I earn my living is through keynote speaking. And if you listen to my keynote speech, you could be forgiven to think that the 2003 World Cup never happened.
Fair enough. But I was actually going to say, all the more reason for them to actually put in when an Australian side won, because it highlights, it's like going back to the ANZ Championship days. Liz, Magic were the only team that made finals and actually won a premiership in the 11 years or however many years that we had the ANZ Championship. So you don't shy away from that. You say, well done, but the other team will
throw
won
them
by
the bone. Yeah.
Pat him on the head.
It's like, oh, look, even sometimes the Australians have managed to do okay. But I thought, imagine how wild the Kiwis would be if an Australian broadcaster did that and just went, you do not exist here.
Arrogance. That's how I find that really arrogant. Yeah. Anyhow, and
Yeah,
and
well,
actually, it's
I mean,
wrong.
they're clearly marketing to a particular audience. Like, there wouldn't have been, I mean, there's not many Australians watching Super Rugby as far as I can tell anyway, but there wouldn't have been many Australians who watched it. But, we certainly did here. My mum lives in Wellington. Hurricanes won it convincingly. But, just interested in rugby, we would have watched it anyway. But it was just funny to watch the opening package and go, hello, I thought this was a Trans-Tasman competition, but apparently I'm wrong. Only matters if you win.
Yeah, well, that's. I think you've just nailed it there for me. If you're going to open your competition up to others around the world, you accept that straight away.
Do you know, years ago at the 2015 World Cup, I was commentating with Jenny Woods, the final. And so as host broadcaster, our commentary went to both New Zealand and Australia. And back then I had Twitter. I don't have Twitter anymore. And I got all these filthy messages from Kiwis yelling at me for not cheering for the New Zealand team. You need to be encouraged. I'm like, this broadcast goes everywhere. I'm trying, obviously I'll give an Australian perspective, but they were really at me for not cheering, and I'm being more vocal about cheering. And
I've got to clang a story. I'm going to tell this story in a way to keep it interesting, but I'm not going to throw that person under the bus because I did that live on air. But World Cup, South Africa, last World Cup, South Africa. So I was over with the host broadcaster and called a lot of the Aussie games. And then we would usually have a non-Australian sitting as expert. And then depending, it might have we had Maddie Brown over there with us. Maddie might have been on the sideline or whatever. Anyhow, we got to one of the bigger games. This is good. Dwindle down, folks. You'll figure this out. So we got to one of the bigger games and I was commentating with someone from the opposing country. So it was Australia and someone from the opposing country. And not an overly experienced commentator. And we're going through the game and Australia were killing it. Like, they were doing a really good job. And I, pride myself on, I don't care who's playing, I just call the game as I see it. But my co-commentator decided that wasn't the case and was very patriotic in moments that just didn't deserve patriotism. And so I just called it on air. I just had enough. And I was just like, I actually said the country, get off your something high horse and call the game as you see it. And anyhow, she wrote to the executive producer and I got kicked off the grand final for it.
You did?
No.
Oh, dear.
I always wondered why you weren't doing that.
Yeah, it was crazy. So anyhow, there's a bit of controversy over in South Africa, but anyhow, lots goes on in the background. But yeah, I just if you're going to commentate, it's really important that you go in and you call it as you see it, unless you're an Australian. So when Kath Cox and Kim Green call the Aussie game, that is for Australian audiences. So you call the hell out of Australia, right? But when you're going to listen to my commentary over at the Com Games, I'm neutral. So I will call what I see,
Hang on, can we just have a little moment? Who at Channel 7 didn't do their research and have let you It wouldn't even be Channel 7. You must be host broadcaster. Who was that? You and
I'm
Kat
host-
Toolbardi. It's just great, isn't it? Someone. So who in the host broadcaster didn't actually just Google who are the two of the naughtiest girls in netball? Oh, let's put them together and comment.
I was going to talk before when we were talking about the netball hub where Sue's having this terrible time as GM and you and Kath are just on the piss except for the 4 hours a day that you commentate.
Hang on, I've got video footage of Sue on the piss. Sometimes, every so often that stuff pops up. Up at us.
Is that me
Oh
when I
my
was
God.
being Yoda? Do you remember when I had the blanket over me with Q and
Yes,
Deborah and I was
and so
pretending
I'm
to
trying to
Yoda?
ring my husband going, I really miss you.
It's a terrible
Meanwhile,
time.
like hard Sue being Yoda.
Yes, no, they have. They've let Kat and I into Glasgow to go. We've been messaging back and forth. Kat actually has a flight at this point in time on Friday. I simply don't. So I don't even know if I'm going, but I hope I get a flight soon. But I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. I haven't had a lot of time next to Kat. We always message each other and we laugh at each other's jokes occasionally.
Well,
But
I'm
yeah,
quite
she's
looking forward
on the
to
old
it.
bird. Yeah,
Yeah.
it should be fun.
And then
Should be fun.
I'll have to switch between you two and Kath and Kim. How Australian. Of course, you want
Right.
Kath and Kim.
Kath and Kim.
Commentating for Australia.
It's the best.
Well,
Well, I'm not surprised you haven't had much time to think about the comm games. You've got a lot on and we're very, very, very grateful that you have given us this time live from your flight over the Nullabor plane heading to Melbourne. Hope it is a good trip. Just for everyone, our tickets to our grand final eve function I stopped selling. I've had to negotiate. I've had to beg for the venue to let us go through until Monday, the 29th of June, but we have to stop selling that day at midday because I have to give them final numbers. So if you are intending to come, and we have some amazing guests, Sue Gaudion is going to come and join us too. We have some awesome other surprise guests, big prizes, good times. Jump on Try Booking and get your ticket. Please do come and join us. It's a super fun event, isn't it? So
It's a super fun event.
But
Me
there-
and might be there.
oh, very
Maybe.
There are no ticket sales at the door. You must buy them before midday on Monday, the 29th of June. But that is all we have time for. Oh, that's good. I think something made a noise then. Yeah.
I've got a wee and I didn't want to do a Hadcocks and go mid-episode.
You don't want to do a Kath Cox. But here's to a final penultimate round of Super Netball. Let it be an extraordinary one. Thanks for joining us. I'm Carolyn Svindell.
I'm Miss Alice.
I'm only Sue.
Bye. Okay, Sue, this is the bit right at the end of the show where we say something really funny. So, ready, go.
Knock, knock.
Oh, great. Who's there?
Do you know what? I do not know a knock, knock joke. Do you know a knock, knock joke? I tell you what.
I do know one, but
Go.
it's not very nice, so I'm not going to tell it. I told it at the Bob Hall Brewery a couple of weeks ago, and Kath really wanted me to tell the story on here, but it's like, no, it's not. Particularly
not
for
appropriate.
people who are religious, it's not. It's not.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay.
But no.
Awesome.
Why don't gingerbread ladies wear skirts?
Don't know. Why don't gingerbread ladies wear
They've got
skirts?
crummy legs.
Shit.
That's how you be a professional stand-up comedian. All right. Thanks. Bye.